이렇게 맞나요? Hello, Hanites. I'm Youngjong from Emo. And it's been a year and 2 months since I've come here almost every day, but this is the first time I make a speech in front of you. And I sometimes thought about preparing some speeches by the end of every month, but somehow I kept putting it off, making a bunch of excuses. And to be honest with you, all those excuses boil down to one reason. I was afraid that my English would be judged by other people. I think I've been surrounded by that kind of worries all my life, and that's in fact what I want to talk about today. And I think my speech is going to be like a confession to myself. And as a child, I was a fast English learner, and I was always a step ahead of friends, and I got praise all the time from my parents and teachers. So I started considering myself a good English speaker, even though I wasn't actually. But as I grew up, I realized little by little that I was wrong, that I was just a small frog in a small well who did not know a thing about the outside world, where so many people who were way better English speaker than I was were living. So, but the problem was that I didn't want to admit it, and whenever I ran into some bilingual people or some bilingual friends or some friends who had been abroad for many years to study English, I just thought to myself like, oh well, they are privileged ones. I'm still quite a good English speaker for someone who has never been to the States. But I knew deep inside that I was wrong, and I really needed to work really hard if I want to catch up with them. But the problem was, again, I didn't do anything about it. I just pretend like I spoke English fluently, and my pronunciation wasn't that bad, if I say so myself. And anyway, so whenever I read some sentences or one or two words in English, people would still say, "Hey, your English is good." So I kept lying to myself. But I couldn't make a long speech or have a long conversation with people in English, because if I do that, people would instantly notice that I was actually a poor English speaker. I think that's when I started to be afraid of standing in front of people and afraid of making mistakes. And also I wanted to live up to people's expectation and also my expectation as well. But like I said, I didn't do anything about it, so it was like I was trapped in a vicious cycle. So how to get out of that vicious cycle? I came here. So inside me there were two me's. One is I'm a good English speaker. The other is I'm not a good English speaker. And I used to think that the latter is the attitude that I have to have, and the former, I'm good English speaker, was the one that I have to avoid as possible as I can, because I knew personally that how bad that is, and I thought like I'm a good English speaker is kind of smugness and arrogance. And looking back, I think I learned how to embrace I'm not a good English speaker, that attitude naturally as I studied here with you guys. Like I said, when I meet someone who speaks good English, I can just chalk it up to their luck. But most of the Hanites I've met over the past year had never been to English-speaking countries, but their English was so good that I got ashamed of myself, and they were also diligent people and hardworking people. So I think that's how I started studying really hard. And I think the attitude of being humble helped me a lot to improve my English. But at some point, I realized that I was getting too humble to perform my best English. I've got used to think that my English was really poorer than others, and I started to be afraid of speaking in English again. And as you study English, your expectation on your English is getting higher, while your confidence in your English, your confidence in English is getting lower. So so again, it took some time to regain the confidence in my English. I cannot say now I'm 100% confident in my English, but I'm trying not to get too nervous when I speak in English. But it's still a big challenge for me. So what I've learned is that I always have to keep the balance between the two. And I promise myself that I will always be ready to new things and be confident in my English. Thank you.